I'm going to read two short pieces. The first is a fiction piece, and I change the title of this every time it would get rejected. So it's called Unpublished Manuscript number 36, which you can figure out how many times. The only thing you need to know, besides about an unemployed writer, is it's about bot flies. I don't know if anybody knows what a bot fly is, but they're these nasty little things you find out about on the Discovery Channel at 2 a.m. you wish you'd never learned about. They bite you and they lay their eggs inside you, and eventually you get a little scratching going on, and out comes a giant fly. Okay. Unpublished manuscript number 36. Oh, and also there's a TV show I'll try to let you know when the TV voice is speaking. Kitty peeled dead flies off the screen. She squinted in the direction of the boatyard. No boats today, she muttered to herself. A late-season heat wave had brought a constant haze that made it hard to see over the bay. A few feet behind her, Jimmy lay on the skinny bed, hands behind his head, eyes transfixed on the tiny television. He was watching a program on PBS about bot flies. The sound was turned down low, but he could still hear it. Could still see the victims, their arms red and inflamed from infection, the after effect of larvae, gestating and hatching under the skin. Kitty turned from the door and sat at the small, round motel table. She picked up a book of matches and began lighting them, one after the other, burning each down to her fingers before letting them drop. On the first floor below, excited kids raced along the boardwalk, anxious to beat their parents to the beach. Kitty tried to appear preoccupied by the little fires in her hand until all the matches were burned out. I spoke with my folks the other day, she said. I don't know what you expect me to tell them. I mean, what do you want me to tell them? What is the thing you say you do for a living? Kitty examined her fingernails, crossed and then uncrossed her legs. She bit off a piece of dead skin from her fingertips. Oh, that's right, you're a writer. You know, Jimmy, I'm pretty sure to be a writer, you actually have to write once in a while. I mean, I know you don't think I'm very smart, but I do know that. The TV. At first, the painful bite is indistinguishable from a common bee sting or horsefly bite. But then again, Jimmy, you don't really do anything, do you? You don't even have a drinking problem. Aren't all writers supposed to have drinking problems? From the TV. The egg deposited, the botfly uses pointed mouth hooks to bore deep down through the skin. Ever since he was a kid, Jimmy had been terrified of parasites. He found the very small in his life much more unsettling than the very big. When Jimmy left college to try to make it on his own as a writer, he found that money runs out fast. And because he wouldn't work, citing the severe time constraint the day job would place upon his art, eventually he was forced to find shelter down at the Bowery. There he met a guy with scabies. It wasn't the empty stomach, it wasn't the squalor alone. It wasn't the slew of rejection letters that made him quit that first time, it was the scabies that made him move back home. Hey Jimmy, didn't Hemingway have a drinking problem? I mean, I don't even go to college or nothing, but I know Hemingway drank a lot. From the TV. Doing heavy damage to muscle tissue, the larva feeds off its immobilized host. And who's that other guy you like so much? What's his name? The faggot, the one that wrote that movie? I know he had a drinking problem. The far-off sound of trucks making a final downshift before speeding up to get on the freeway mingled with the salt-flavored air and blew up from the beach. It came through the screen door, the heartbreaking sound of diesel engines and seagulls. Kitty scratched her head, tugged at her dirty sun-bleached hair, and stood up. She straightened the towel she had wrapped around her waist, and peering over her shoulders, lifted the back of it off, swatting off any dust that might be on her backside. I'm going down to the beach, she said, no longer sounding annoyed. She snatched her little square purse off the television, knocking the oversized motel key to the floor. At the sink in the back of the room, Kitty grabbed a wicker bag from the open closet. The bright lights, unflattering, she didn't bother with the mirror. She threw some belongings into her bag and walked out the door. Jimmy didn't look up, not even when the screen door slammed or when he heard the squeal of brakes. He didn't look up when an ice cream truck bell passed or when a girl shouted something in the distance about a no-talent, impotent fuck as she walked along the boardwalk on her way to the beach. Jimmy was mesmerized by the botflies. He wondered how such a tiny bug could bring about so much devastation. This piece is another short piece. This is from the memoir that Lauren was kind enough to mention. I just started playing rock and roll again. I hadn't played in a long time after stopping doing what I was doing. And so we're back in the studio now, first album in 15 years, recording for a song I wrote for my lovely and very pregnant fiancée, Justine. But it makes me remember why I started playing rock and roll in the first place. It's called Rock and Roll Suicide. Rock and roll is all attitude and sneer. Nothing beats being on stage. Cigarette burning, beer warming, set list scrawled on the back of a cocktail napkin, tubes crackling with overdrive. Yet it isn't the shows I miss, though there were plenty. Some great, like the ones with my first band, Redheaded Stepchild at the Cool Moose Cafe in Hartford, and What's Her Name giving me head in between sets in the men's room stall. Some were disasters, like the Creeping Charlie's gig at Brave New World, where I discovered the difference between 80 proof and 101 proof and the danger of trying to tune your own guitar. No, what I miss are the shows no one ever saw, the songs no one ever heard, those 3-day-long, middle-of-the-night, drug-fueled clusterfucks where nothing mattered but the music. I miss my friends, Gluehead and Kelphead, and Junkie Jason and Johnny Kreitz, and Dan Jewett, Big Tom, and Leaf Irish. I even miss Brian Fast. Somewhere between late night and early morning, downtown studios off 3rd Street, nestled in the ghetto that is Hunters Point. We've been jamming nonstop for days. There's talk of a possible gig in the not-too-distant future. A cookout at Thrasher Magazine, somebody's wedding, a gay bar in the Tenderloin. We're going back into the studio. We don't need a reason. All our gear is out of hock. Nobody's locked up in jail. Everyone is here. A few girls lounge around the perimeter, a stripper named Bubbles, and maybe even my wife, the one I still love. Girls are always hanging around, waiting for handouts from Gluehead. We robbed the hostess truck again. Our studio is filled with ding-dongs and ho-hos. Kelphead has hauled his motorcycle up the freight elevator, stowing it next to the washtub of tools, WD-40, assorted wrenches, and greasy rags. He's taken a break from behind the kit to smoke crank out of a light bulb head and tinker with the bike's exhaust. Leaf Irish has taken over backbeats. Former sea hag Ronnie Yoakum says that everyone wants to believe there's some big reason people get high. But it ain't like that, man. Some people just like to get high. Leaf Irish says that's so rock and roll. Leaf Irish is amazing. Not as a human being, mind you. As a human being, he's somewhat deplorable. But as a drummer, he is a god. The first time I met Leaf Irish, he'd been speeding in the Potomac Street studio for days, decked out in terry cloth hot pants and shirtless, perched on a stool in total darkness, save for the blinking red light from the amplifier humming white noise. Leaf was pounding the drums so unbelievably fast that he was creating a vacuum of sound, ghost notes that you'd swear you heard, but that were not actually there. It was mesmerizing. The guy could fucking play the drums. Gluehead is behind his Ironworks pulpit, 3-tiered keyboard system stacked high, internal mechanisms splayed open, exposed wires and circuits, fuses on operating table display. Every day, Glue's hair is dyed a new fluorescent color. Today it is tangerine. Big Tom is on bass. We call him Big Tom because he is very tall. Big Tom can be an asshole at times, but he has money. He keeps his backpack stuffed with $100 bills, all from 1977, close to his side. Tonight, we are well medicated. There are lots of guitars to choose from. Johnny Kreitz has figured out the chords to a speed metal rendition of Rocket Man. This is before he will swing from the ceiling at the Balboa Hotel. Junkie Jason scorches a blistering lead. He lives in another studio down the hall and was always coming around bumming smoke, so we put him to work. This is before he puts the end of a shotgun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. I've returned from the can, untied the belt from my biceps, and grabbed somebody's Gibson. I dial in my sound. I've adopted Brian Fast's approach, all mid-range, no reverb, distortion only on special occasions, drives Kelphead nuts. Brian Fast has been exiled from the group for sleeping with Glue's psychotic girlfriend Sparkle Plenty, so tonight we play my songs. The 4-track is rigged together with solder and duct tape. We will record this session for posterity. Dan Jewett is engineer. Unfortunately, the record will be lost when Skipper Nick's crazy Indian girlfriend steals all my tapes one night at Hepatitis Heights. Over time. But it does not matter. Outside these windows, other men sleep, go to jobs. They ask for days off and wait for raises and anniversary blowjobs from their wives. In a life filled with disappointment, we ask for nothing, and so we cannot be let down. You cannot fail if you do not try. Tonight, this morning, is why we do what we do. Because sometimes the music comes together like it is right now, effortless and hypnotizing. Leaf is pounding his drums, a seductive looped groove steadier than a metronome. With his left hand, Gluehead hammers out classic rock Hammond melodies, but with his right he swirls the frequencies on the synthesizer. Big Tom locks in with Leaf, chubby notes rolling like clumps of melted sugar. Guitars crunch, dirty and staccato. Junkie Jason is the best guitarist I've ever played with. Dan's true talent resides in his ability to decipher sound. I know I have never played or sang better. I'm hitting otherworldly notes, floating high outside my body, looking down on this wreck of a man who for one brief moment shines. And this is how I will always think of San Francisco, the music and being young, how I will think of everyone, the ones who make it out and the ones who don't, the ones who get sent away and the ones who find sobriety in new lives. This is John and Jason, who will decide that this place isn't fun anymore. This is Bluehead, stuck for another 2 years in a Wisconsin prison where you cannot smoke cigarettes, which, as he tells me in a recent letter, entirely ruins the prison experience. This is Leaf, Kelp, and Dan. This is losing on your own terms and never growing old. Thanks.